Alan Wakefield. It's the Nolan Carr at Night show starring Nolan. Inviting you to join him and his guest this week, Montaner Fresilli, for the Season 3 Episode 1 premiere show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Nolan.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy you're back for another edition of the show, the Season 3 Episode 1 premiere. There are a few things that are different this season. I know you know that the last two seasons of the show has been called the Ice Team Show with No Dog, but I felt, as I want to grow and expand my guests on the show, not just my friends and so on and so forth, I want to have more big-time players on the show. As I progress, obviously, the names will get bigger, hopefully, at least. Anyways, with this episode, I have a dear friend on, former high school teammate in the sense of, we're all teammates, for a neighbor, a good friend, and so on and so forth. He's the legendary Montaner Fresilli, URI football star. And, I for this season, I want to start bringing on bigger names, and I have to make it more professional. But for the most part, it's the same show. So stay with us. We'll be right back with a monologue of what happened in the news this past week when we return from commercial break. See you soon. 2, 1. And welcome everybody back to the program. I thank you so much for staying with us through the commercial break. Hopefully you have a nice drink and snack or food, whatever it may be, while you're watching this, because this is where the fun begins. And this is the segment that is my monologue that I do every single week, or at least for the most part. And I like to talk about what happened in the news this past week since we last met on this glorious show, because that's what it is. Anyways, without further ado, let us get to the main point of this. To start off the Nolan at Night news cycle, it's being reported that 2 lawyers of R. Kelly's legal team have withdrawn themselves ahead of the trial. Great. Now that Britney has the ability to get her own lawyer, college liberals are going to scream cultural appropriation, and that at the legal system, and that it's screwed, and that the judge should be disbarred forever. That's when they're not posting about, the environment, thinking, that'll help. Boom. A story more bizarre than SNL actors thinking they have a chance of a career outside SNL. Law and Order SVU actor Isaiah Stokes, has been charged with murder after a recent New York City shooting. I guess the only way he thought he could stay relevant is to pull a Mark David Chapman to a poor stranger on the street. Hope Stroke likes blue denim, like Trump likes fast food. Boom, as I butchered that one. In a sad state of events, Los Angeles County has reinstated mask mandates after all the rich anti-vaxxers caused the COVID cases to spike faster than Bill Cosby at the club the first time since his prison release. Boom. It's sad that some people have an issue wearing a mask in Whole Foods. And again, these are the same people who think Caitlyn Jenner will win, and Trump will be back August 13th of this year. That was a quadruple roast almost. It's being reported that popular pastor Joel Osteen drives a $325,000 Ferrari, has gotten $4.4 million in forgivable PPP loans, and pays nothing in taxes. And the fat version of him is and has been walking free for the last 45 plus years in New York and Florida, and this guy just getting flack. Austin is such a fraud that Frank Abagnale tried catching him when he was younger. I butchered that one, sorry. And some more comedy news, Bill Burr made the news again as he recently called out CNN, calling them, quote, un-American pieces of shit who wants Trump for ratings. Just like Trump, this is just another day at the office for Bill Burr, It's his grand plan to be canceled by everyone marches on like U.S. soldiers marching down the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam in the 60s. Bill Burr gives less of a shit about people's feelings than DJT about his son Eric. Boom. That was a quadruple roast almost. Coco Gauff saved herself from the embarrassment like no one wanted to see Trump and Bill O'Reilly speaking to her as a 17-year-old, quote, tennis phenom tested positive for COVID-19, forcing her to drop out of the Tokyo Olympics. People who actually thought she had a chance of making an impact are more delusional than Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin's brain after smoking weed for more than 50 years. Boom. And some interesting news, Demi Lovato was in the news recently as she made the statement saying, quote, it's okay to accidentally misgender people as long as intentions are good, end quote. Okay, and that's like saying you can run red lights as long as your intentions are not to crash into someone, or it's okay to shoot someone from point blank as long as the bullet doesn't actually kill them. Like, it doesn't make sense. Obviously, nowadays, especially with the current political spectrum, what do you want to call it, everything else in life, that's just not going to work. No one's going to be like, oh yeah, I meant to say that in a positive way. The fuck? In some more political news, apparently ticket sales are moving slowly for the Trump and Bill O'Reilly Stadium tour. People who are surprised at this are the same ones as kids finding out Santa isn't real and then pretending that they already knew it. Like, are you surprised by this? Like, although they don't want to admit it, Trump killed hundreds of thousands of lives during the pandemic. It was a shitty person, and Bill O'Reilly just fuck him. And kids, come on now. I mean, like, if you're told that he's not real, like, why do you try to act like you're cool? Who are you impressing? Some wicked witch killed by a falling house type of news. It's been public now that Twitter has suspended yet again Marjorie Taylor Greene for COVID-19 tweets. At this point, she deserves more of a permanent timeout from playtime instead of a soft rich parent slap on the wrist type of punishment. And finally, in the last story, the Nolan Carr at night news cycle. Surprisingly, Fox is in the news yet again. Shocker, right? As Fox and Friends co-host Brian Kilmeade compared skipping the COVID vaccine to cliff diving, saying Monday that, quote, people who don't survive the disease made the, quote, choice to die. Yeah, that also means, that choosing a class with a hard teacher means you're automatically going to fail. Fox is so fucking pathetic at this point that it's more sad than Disney thinking the Muppets are still relevant and needed today. Boom. Sorry, Muppets. That's the monologue. What happened in the news this past week. Stay with us as we right back with our season 3, episode 1 premiere guest, Montaner Fresilli. I'll see you soon. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome back, everyone, to the show, season 3, episode 1. Big guest. Last season was known as the Ice Team Meme Show, but now we're changing it to Nolan Carr at night because we want to look professional. If we want to have on some big time players on this eventually down the line, who knows? I like to think this is the South Kingstown small version of the Joe Rogan experience, but technically it's not nowhere near. Anyways, with the new season, a new episode, I have to have a new guest, none other than a dear friend. What do you want to call it? Neighborhood pal, so on and so forth. He's a big deal. He is the big deal at URI on the URI football team. The one and only Montaner. How are you, my dear friend? Thank you for coming on the show.
What's up, brother? It's an honor to be here. I'm excited to be the first guest of Nolan Carr at night.
Yeah.
Even though we're currently recording this in the late evening hours.
Well, that's the thing. Usually that happens when I do this. It usually tends to be at night because I work during the day at a summer camp through the guild, so I have no time to do it during the day. And I'm not going to have it would be like the Tonight Show where I'm saying, oh yeah, can you come on at 11:30 and do this? And I'm not doing. I don't have like StreamYard or anything like that where I can live stream it. So I say that. Plus, alliteration or whatever.
Of course.
It's
yeah,
called,
bro.
but no, I have to do creative.
Here.
Yes, no,
I'm excited.
Yes, I appreciate that's always something that's really appreciated in that field. But as I always do, I like to catch up and see how the guest's life's going since we last saw each other, whatever that might have been.
I'm doing well. Back to school on June 28th. I'm working out. I worked in Narragansett Rubbish. That's like my main gig. Well, I'm a man of many jobs, but when I'm going back to school, schedule and timing just gets a little tough because of the mornings. So I've been working at a local liquor store, Wakefield Liquors. It's a good little spot, like a little booze, some wine.
Yeah,
I can promote that, but I will. It's a good spot. And I also work as a caregiver / helper for a man with special needs.
Oh, there you go.
So it's good. They're a 26-year-old or 25-year-old, excuse me. But great kid, full of life, and he's an awesome dude. So
how does the obviously we're still in a pandemic. So how are the workouts happening while we're still in the stages of this event?
Well, we have to go back. We'll kind of fly back to February of 2020 or March of 2020 when this all kind of started. So there were some pop-ups of sickness on my team in January and February of 2020, me being one of them. I'll get a little intense here. I flew symptoms. I was really sick for about a week and a half. I lost maybe like 25. I was about 305 pounds, and I was down to like 275, 280 pounds. Then, I came back for almost a week, and then I started throwing up blood.
Oh.
So then that kind of just left me uneasy. I was out for the rest of the winter workouts. So that kind of led us up to spring break. And then when all this is going crazy, we were like, oh, it's going to be, a couple weeks or whatever. Turned into, an entire summer.
Yeah.
A long time. We came back in September. We couldn't even start until the end of September. We did workouts. It was everybody's mask, 24/7. 6 feet apart. We were working out in the weight rooms. We had tape basically to set up grid squares, and you wouldn't leave the grid square for the entire workout. It was a lot. It was definitely a lot of just craziness. Especially for college athletes. You like to kind of know what your day is going to be like, with practice and stuff like that. But that was just something that, there was no real consistency for us. And then also, with positive cases within our team would lead to, shutdowns. So we were extremely careful about, migrating with the general population of students or other student athletes, So really our team was divided up into, multiple groups and different, locker rooms. I mean, I think we utilized our main locker room, which usually houses about 100 of us. So if you think about 100 kids that were broken down between our locker room and then the 5 annexed locker rooms in the Ryan Center, which are on the opposite side of Meade Stadium. So we were just really spread out. It was weird. It was not really, it wasn't fun at all. Practices were, cut down and, limited contact, and you could only go against the same couple of guys to keep you in a pod. And, your lift, you had to lift with a certain pod. And, when we traveled on the road, you had to sit next to the guy that you were rooming with. And it was just, it was just all madness and craziness, but we got through it. Coming into this year, our workout, it's kind of like if you have a vaccination, you're clean, ready to go. If you haven't, you still have to wear a mask no matter what. And that's kind of the lay of the land with it right now. I mean, there's still an ongoing thing with vaccinations and who's going to get one, who's not. And, I'm not going to get into any of that or personal view of that, but I think that, everybody's doing what they think is in the best, obviously with your health, you think about yourself first. And I think everybody's doing what the best decision for themselves is. And obviously as a teammate and, a brother of theirs, I respect that and whatever they have to do. So, I mean, we're lined up for a regular training camp and 11 games this season, and hopefully more. We're looking for a playoff bid. That's what we want, and that's what we're dying for. So we're gonna get it done, and whatever wrench thrown in the way, you're gonna have to dip, dodge, duck, dodge, dip.
Exactly.
Whatever the dodgeball term. That's a good movie, I will say.
Well, it's definitely something. I mean, when you said you were feeling sick and you had it, it definitely gives you perspective that you can't take life for granted. I mean, that happened to you even in high school with your big injury. It definitely gives you perspective on what we may not have a season. We may only have played 3 games last season, but my health's definitely more important. You kind of answered it. You wanting to hopefully get more than 11 games and make the playoffs and whatnot. What are your hopes now going to your junior year at URI for this team?
I just want us to win. I mean, as a local guy, I think it it hits a little differently compared to other players.
Yeah.
Because, you grow up here, you see people, you see generations of teams flow through with, some of them do maintain or sustain the success that is being looked for, but, no team in a very long time. I think it's might be 30 years, maybe 30 plus years since I think it's 1986, the last time that we had a playoff berth. And we've only had one winning season since 2001.
Yeah, which is another thing that definitely, pushes, not just, yourself, but in a sense you as well, because, coming from SK where, a very successful player and very good, then you come to URI and, you have to work your way up the ladder, and hopefully, as you progress, you get more time. And then, as you just said, 2001, the last winning season besides my freshman year at 2018 when it was 6-5. For you in that situation, obviously you weren't on the team when I was a freshman at URI, but for you as a player, and obviously, I know you're big into, hometown and, being there and playing at URI. I know that was one of your things to be able to play at URI Meade Stadium. But for you as a player, especially, when the season prior, whenever it was, where it just wasn't the same as 2018, how do you deal with that?
Well, one thing to put in perspective here is that there's a lot of new coaches. I think I counted up the other day. I think there's only, 40 plus players from that 2019 URI football team are no longer on the team.
Okay.
So, that there's a lot of new guys in the locker room. There's, a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. There's a new defensive line coach. There's new tight ends coaches. New director of football operations. Some athletic directors have been moved around, and academic support staff has been moved around. Those are all little pieces that ultimately help you sustain success on the field. There's so many moving parts in a football, team or an organization. I would call it, this is ran like a business. It's an organization, it's a team.
Of course, yeah.
And you want to do what you need to do. You need to do something to help bring success to a program, because if not, it's a job. It's your lifeline at the end of the day. And if you're not getting it done, they're going to go out and try to find somebody who can get it done. So I will say that, the team is, there's no cancer in our locker room anymore.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's really, kind of pointing fingers. There's none of that, blame. There's no blaming or complaining really. Now it's, we lock arms and we walk out onto that field, and, we know our jobs, and it's all about just getting them done. We have to do what we have to do. And, we have great coaches to help guide us, and, we listen to them, and, we put our best foot forward, and you go play. I mean, you put the ball down, you got 60 minutes out there to go figure something out. And whatever happens at the end of the day is whatever's going to happen. It's a game. I think you lose a lot of times in sports, that's lost sight of. It is a game, and there's other things out there besides the sport. And, you one day have to take the things that you learn in these 4 years of college and put it towards your life. What's life after football? Once you clean up the cleats, there's no going down to the park and putting on pads and playing pickup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like basketball. It's not like baseball.
Yeah.
So you kind of, you lose a lot of the physical things that you learn, or the strategy or the play calling, but you take a lot of the lessons that you've learned, and your ability to perform under pressure, your attention to detail, and ultimately being a teammate. You know what I mean? Being able to work with people.
Yes, and which also brings up another point I'm curious about from your side, since you're on the team. Now, there have been some players during the last few years that have moved on from URI in the sense of going to the next level, getting drafted and getting signed and stuff like that. But there's also been players who have left after a few years. Now, for yourself, I mean, definitely it opens space in the locker room, regardless of where you are, if they're in the same position, but it also, you lose that chemistry with that player. As a player, is there a level of frustration that you have, or not just you, but the team has when someone leaves, whether it's, when it's a bad year, such as years in the past, or is it just like next man up?
I think there's a little bit of both. Usually, obviously you don't want to see people leave because you lose.
Yeah.
That's not, to be honest with you, that's not toughness. You should be able to stick through the worst of the worst and the best of the best.
Yeah.
And for the kids that left, because of us not winning, that's kind of on them. But I bet there are other reasons behind that too. So as someone that's a local kid that cares a lot about the team and about the culture, that culture is really what keeps the bond. So you might, we're all brothers, we all stick together in a sense. So, there's one brother that's thinking about, jumping to another place, because of whatever reasons, we support them. It's their life, we're not going to sit there and live it for them. They just are, they're gone, and, we keep walking forward, and coaches go out and they find transfers and they find high school players that want to be Rhode Island Rams, and we take them in, and we put them right into our, we help mold them into the person that they should be, and bring them into our program, and help make the Rhode Island football family a little bit better.
Of course. What I also want to mention, I'm curious, on a scale to 1 to 10, I know you played him a little bit. You weren't there every year he was there, but Kwity Paye, getting drafted he went to Michigan, obviously, but Hendricken boy from Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how elated or excited were you when you heard that, even though, team enemies?
I'm really excited for him. Sorry, I had no idea to shut off this. Sorry about that. If I'm going to be honest with you, I will say I'm super excited for him, for Rhode Island, for us, for our team. Can we hold on for just one moment?
Yeah, no problem.
Near the door. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem.
Little air conditioning broke, so people coming to help fix it. So, but as I was, Kwity, great player. Somebody that I looked up to for sure. Had a lot of great conversations with him during his time at Michigan, and being a college football player, he did kind of help me in making decisions and seeing, okay, this is this is that, this is how colleges are going to come and talk to you. I had to play him 3 times in high school. I think 3 regular games and then 2 scrimmages, so total of 5. I loved playing against him. He gave me like my welcome to high school football moment. My sophomore year, I was playing defense. He was actually playing running back. We rushed the pocket. Quarterback Chris Hindle, who played at Bryant, rolling out. I'm like, oh man, I got to chase him down, and kind of look out of my eyes to see a green jersey kind of, flashing at me. I turn, I'm deer in headlights, and Kwity Paye just shoulder. Didn't fall, but I stumbled for about 10 yards backwards, and I was like, oh man. But then I was able to, I was able to actually play really well against him, had some really good blocks, and he's kind of the one that made me love competition.
Yeah.
Because, I faced kids that were good, but he was, head and shoulders above the rest, great.
Yeah.
So, he made me really love competition. He made me love working hard, and really for him, he's a big part of the reason why I am where I am, because I always just want to be one of the best guys around. You know what I mean? There's always going to be somebody working a little bit more than you, a little bit, a little bit heavier, running a little bit faster. And, you kind of just have to block that out and do everything that you need to do that day. And as long as you get it done, you're going to put yourself in a great position.
Now, I don't know what your future ambitions are outside of URI, and that'll be discussed maybe a little later. But from your perspective, he coming from Rhode Island, obviously Hendricken was ranked nationally a bunch of times, and they're a successful program. But Rhode Island's a small state, the smallest state in the country. Do you think that ability, to go to a big time school like Michigan, regardless of your skill level, in high school, I mean, you'd have to have good skill to go there, but then to get drafted early on to the first round, does it give hope for other kids from the small state to one day maybe get drafted?
For sure. I mean, I always think about it like this. It doesn't really matter where you come from.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, there's, it's all hard work. It's all dedication, your hope, and a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a big part of it. I mean, you can do whatever your heart desires in a way, but obviously there are factors out there that you cannot control.
Yeah.
And that's why you just leave it all out there. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. In Quiddy's position, I know that Quiddy came from, an extremely tough upbringing in Liberia, coming here. His mom, helping make a better life for, her kids. And, Quiddy going to Michigan, with going to Hendricken, and, his brother Katome, he actually played at New Mexico State. I think that, Quiddy had a good older brother to look up to. And then when it really came down to it, Quiddy was a, freak of nature when it came to his athleticism, and his potential with his body. When you looked at him, you saw a kid that was, on the skinnier side, but extremely muscular, extremely athletic, that athletic build that, like, man, if this kid really got into a weight room, he could, explode. So, I think he was probably around 235 pounds when I played him in high school. And I think he just entered the draft at like 285. So that's, a solid, 50 pounds right there, maybe a little bit more. So.
Okay. Now on a completely different trajectory, not just, you're involved obviously heavily with sports on the field, but off the field, especially at URI, you have significance as well. And I often would see you on the sidelines at URI basketball games in your nice shirt, dress shirt and pants, and walk around serious with the other goons of the radio station and stuff like that. For you though, how did you I'm curious on how you got into that, seeing as, as a football player, your schedule is very busy.
So the good thing about that is it's basically through like a kind of like an internship program through the media department or the URI Sports Media Department, and our sports director, his name is Shane Donaldson, a great guy. As an athlete, it's you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't know him.
Yeah.
But just being able to meet him, I met him in high school. Stone Freeman was a big connection between us. And then as I got into college, I was like, hey, Shane, I'm looking to kind of help out. Well, he was like, hey, we can use stat runners at games. So basically what I do is I show up to the game, and I'm in charge of, during every single media timeout, I go around to the printer, grab the papers, me and usually there's one or two other, and we go and distribute all of the statistics, the official statistics, to television and radio and newspaper. So, whatever there are, maybe there's a total of 8 media timeouts in a game, or 4 media timeouts in a game, 8 media timeouts in a game. So, we just go around and it's a little piece, but it's a big thing that helps the train keep going. It's so that, live radio and live TV can be up to date. And it's so that journalists and newspaper writers are able to put together a story that's accurate and that a reader can follow along to when it comes to statistics and timestamps and, what player was in the game when or if this happened. So, it's a little piece of it, but it's something that I take a lot of pride in. And, you're a big piece of the operation.
Of course. Now, football is all about, being on your toes and being ready and whatnot. And I'm no professional, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that football definitely helps you with that, because I'm sure running stats during a media timeout, whether it's 30 seconds or a minute, is a very fast and stressful thing. How much, did that help you with that, and does the other one help that as well?
I won't say there's a correlation between the two, but just like that pressure, you have a job to do, you got to go get it done.
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention to the game. You have to know the times, what time the media timeouts are being called at, and kind of when that time is approaching, you get up from your seat, you make your way to the printer, you wait for everything to be printed, and then Michaela Benford or Shane will kind of distribute it to you. You know exactly. Usually it's if it's a radio or if it's a television. Usually they get two. If it's a single, so such as a television, or maybe it's like news television, so they would get one.
Now, do you, for that, which I'm not curious about, do you have to is it just, you're just printing out packets and or of stats or whatever it is and then handing them out to them, or is it like a label that you put on?
No, so it's all printed. It's all through a computer software that they update live during the game, and that gets translated onto paper through the printer. And then at the end of the game, we print out media booklets. So those are all the stats, everything from time of possession, appearance, time in game, timeout, has the entire game in statistics. So every media person, when they get into the room, will get a booklet, and it kind of helps them guide their questions, and it helps them when they're putting together their media piece for their respective publication.
That makes sense. Now, the last few things I want to touch upon. Now, as I mentioned, obviously you're on the other side of sports as well, and you have dabbled in other media areas revolving sports and whatnot, and other sports. I have on Instagram and whatnot, photography and podcasts. Now, I'm curious, the acclaimed Roadie Rumble. I know you were a part of that, and I know you had plans on Instagram with your dear pal, Mr. Blaine. Now, I'm curious for you. I mean, there's millions and millions of podcasts out there, and I'm sure there are loads for URI. But for you, what was the main point and inkling in you for you wanting to get involved with that?
Just personal interest. I just kind of want to have experience in it, say that I've done it, or, I enjoy talking about sports and talking about the stories that sports present. Yeah. Because to be honest with you, sports can be a big part of somebody's life, but still just a decimal of what their life is about. And it really just helps shape. So if you have this little decimal, say this thing I'm fidgeting with, okay, it's a little screw. This is sports. Yeah. Okay. This is your life. Okay. Think about how small that is. But if this is right in the middle, this is your heart. Yeah. Even though it's so small, everything almost connects off of sports. Yeah. So I really enjoy sports. I love, whether it's traditional sports, football, baseball, hockey, soccer, anything. I love action sports. I love skateboarding. I love, BMX. I love dirt bike riding, surfing. I like swimming. I love swimming, track and field. So, I just feel like I was gifted with a big multifaceted of interests. Yeah. And I'm almost doing myself a disservice if I don't dabble with a little bit of everything. I really find what I like.
especially at this level, I mean, you've spent so much time and effort getting to the almost the metaphorical mountaintop. Although you have college football and being a college athlete for a D1 school, so you might as well put forth the extra time into other stuff. Now
Exactly. And
the last few things,
uh
it's the more powerful or big time things that I try to answer, but this year will be more different. And now, obviously, unless you're doing a fifth year or sixth year, whatever it may be, you're not always going to be at URI, and your time at URI goes by fast if you make the most of it, or regardless. But for you, though, what does Montaner want to leave as his, I don't want to say legacy, but his time spent at URI for future generations and classes?
I just want people to, and it's their choice if they remember me or they don't. I just want them to, when my name is spoken, a kid that was dedicated to the University of Rhode Island, a kid that did the right thing, kid that put himself, in involvement with, athletics up the hill in academia, in Greek life, and in clubs and other parts of this campus community. So I love being kind of an all around, a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And if I'm spoken on in 20, 30, 40, 100 years,
Yeah.
hopefully they just talk about a kid that loved the University of Rhode Island and that loved his classmates, his football teammates, and his fraternity brothers and all the relationships that he's made. And then I will take every ounce of wisdom, every ounce of experience I've gotten at the University of Rhode Island and take it with me for the rest of my life. And I'm so happy that I made the decision to come to this school because it's honestly taught me so much about myself and good and bad, and kind of starting to help me shape what I want in the future.
Yeah. And speaking of the future, what does the future hold for my guest today?
The future holds definitely a graduate degree of some sort, playing college football, using the 2 extra years that I have left. Whether that's here at another place, it's still to be determined. And then after that, I guess see how long football goes for. I don't have any high expectations for it. I'm at the point where I just want to play for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Once that love is gone, I can put those cleats up on a shelf and say I did everything I wanted to do and I played till it wasn't fun anymore. And then after that, there's definitely a couple things I'd like to do. Definitely see if college athletics is something I can get into, whether it's coaching college football or being an athletic director. And then there are some other minor things. Definitely would like to write a book one day. I would like to write a script and maybe one day a series, kind of maybe like an HBO series or whatever it is. I mean, I got to get there first.
Hey,
but and maybe even act on screen, but mainly just be involved in sports, be involved in my community, and make a difference in people's lives.
Well, the future is bright. You put in hard work, and that's all we can ask.
Yeah.
Montaner, that is your time here on the Nolan Carr at Night Show Season 3, Episode 1 premiere. As I stated at the beginning, I can't begin to express the gratitude and appreciation I have for you making the time to do this for me. I greatly, greatly appreciate it.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me on here. It's a great experience.
Of course.
We're going to have to put you on the Rumble one time. We talked a little bit of wrestling. I'm kind of upset that we didn't talk any wrestling.
Well, I was going to mention that, but because, see, I constantly looking down my notes like what's his name from Rain Man. I'm always looking down at my notes and stuff. And I mentioned, I forget where it was, the question I was going to ask. It was near the,
I think we might have a little bit of time left if you want to get into some wrestling.
No, because now I just ended it and said, I ended on a good note, so I don't want to, end it another time. I'll save it for another time because I'm sure I'll definitely have you on again. But for all those out there, you listening and doing this, because I know definitely for a sure fact. There's millions of people across the world viewing this, but for you, and I know my dear guest is demanding that you do this. If you like what you listened or watched today, do me a huge favor. Subscribe the fuck out of the show on YouTube. Like on or follow, I should say, on Spotify, not SoundCloud anymore, Apple Podcasts, and those ones. Like it, turn on bell notifications, share it, because that tells me and my dear guest today that you enjoy it and you want to invest in it, just like he has invested in URI athletics in South Kingston for his whole life so far. And it means a lot. And as I said in the previous episodes, folks, the more fun shit to come. This ship isn't going anywhere soon. The wheels are going to fall off before we go, and Rust will get on there. But I thank you very much for tuning in. Catch us next week for another edition of this wonderful show that I do. And in the words of Johnny Carson, a role model, a hero, and the man of late night TV, I bid you all a heartfelt good night.